what's up YouTube? This is Draven and you're in Draven's World. Today we're going to talk about the Colorado-Nebraska game that happened this past Saturday. I was able to go to the game. It was a crazy atmosphere. The Husker fans came out in full force and they showed themselves well. I knew that and they would. They've got a great fan base. But growing up in Colorado, I love the Buffs. I hate the Huskers, but I do appreciate their program. They have an amazing program, an amazing history. And the Cornhusker fans came out. They came out to Boulder, and they represented, but the Buffs sent them home sad. So it was a good Saturday for me, bad Saturday for the Husker Nation. And the game was insane. The atmosphere was insane. From the time I showed up in Boulder, the Go Big Red chants were all over. Red shirts were all over. The stadium, to start the game, was a bit quiet. Once Nebraska scored on the broken play early, the crowd erupted. You know, the Husker fans went wild, and they should have. It was insane. It was a really tense atmosphere, especially after that. There was a big penalty on the Buffs. It was a fourth and whatever, but a guy ran into the punter. Nebraska gets the ball back, and they go down. CU's defense was tired at that point. And they just came off the field on a big stop. That penalty gave Nebraska the ball back. First down, Nebraska comes down and drives. 14-0, Nebraska's up. CU's offense was struggling against the Cornhuskers early and often. Montez makes a big mistake, throws a pick. The defense does what they can to hold them, but it's 17-0 before you know it. And like that, you know, the whole game had flipped. The first part of the first quarter, I thought the Buffs offense did a really good job at holding on to the ball, taking a long drive, and they couldn't get points. But I thought that they were keeping the Huskers defense on the field a lot, and I thought that might pay off. Once the 17-zip happens, it was a really, really hard, gut-wrenching time for me and my friend John. We were there struggling, watching the game unfold. Third quarter kind of played out like the second. Outside of Nebraska being able to put up points, one more score and I think Nebraska would have put the game away. I don't see that's not a real deep thought. I think everyone can see that if CU's defense does not hold, they would have been in such a hold and they weren't able to come back. Once CU started to move in the third quarter, the game changed. I know that Husker fans are upset with their team for letting CU back in the game, but you know, you make plays, you make things happen. Nebraska's defense was clearly tired. Once CU scored the first touchdown to make it 17-7, I thought their defense was fine. I thought the Nebraska defense was going to hold up. I did not see them still giving that lead away, but I had hope. Fourth quarter happens, and CU gets the big play. They get the flea flicker, Montez to DJ Nixon, and I don't think I've ever heard Folsom Field that loud. I've been there more times than I can count, but when that play happened, and Nixon catches the ball right around the 50, breaks the tackle, and he is running in, and it felt like he was running forever. I was on the student side of the end zone, right around the 5-yard line, so I'm looking down as he's running, and it felt like it took him forever. He was in coast mode. There was no one even close to him. I stopped watching him run, and I started to make sure that there wasn't a flag. I knew Montez had threw that from the end zone, so any kind of holding penalty, it would have been a safety. That was one of the greatest calls I'd ever seen an offensive coordinator call. I wouldn't have had the guts to ever make that call. I mean, I wouldn't even made that call in a video game. And dude did. Johnson for the OC for Colorado. I mean, big call, and it changed the game. It changed the tide. It gave CU a chance. So now it's 17-14, And Nebraska comes out and makes a big play with the halfback swing pass that he took for about 70, 75 yards, number 28, and I forgot his name. He's a fabulous running back. I think he's the one who got in some trouble. I'm not sure. I remember reading the story. It's been a little while, and I could not remember if that was him or not. But 28 for Nebraska is a fabulous running back. You can see his speed. You can see his size. And when he got it, I mean, the air went out of the stadium. He turned the corner and outruns the entire defense, and I felt like empty inside. The score now, after the extra point, is 24-14. I thought that might have done the Buffs in. But this is where the first quarter, I felt, came into effect for the Buffs. And they got the ball back, and they did not panic. The offense took a drive on Nebraska, and Magnum, the freshman running back, walks in from 8 yards out. And I stopped watching the Buffs, and I looked at the Nebraska defense line at that point, and they were still on the ground. I mean, as the Buffs are celebrating, I saw at least 2 defensive linemen for Nebraska still on the ground. They hadn't even gotten up yet. And when they did, they looked bad. So now it's 24, after the extra point, it's 24-21. And I told my friend John, I said, if the Buffs get the ball back and Nebraska doesn't score, it's over. The defense can't hold up. I thought that, the first quarter, the Buffs did a good job with the first drive. But once Nebraska went up, I thought that was going to be neutralized. I thought that the defense for Nebraska would have enough to finish the game. They clearly did not. But Nebraska's offense, I think Martinez is a fabulous runner. I did not understand what Nebraska was doing there up to this point with Martinez not really being able to take over the game like he did last year. He scares me as a Buffs fan. I think his speed, his moves, he's something. And so now at this drive, at this point, they're not able to move the ball. The Buffs get it back. There's the fumble, and I really thought that was going to be it. When the Buffs got the ball back, they're not able to get the touchdown, which was painful. They make it 24-24. I thought that they were going to be able to really get in the end zone on a couple of plays. The tired Nebraska defense kind of made their last stand there, and they were able to keep the Buffs out. And it goes 24-24. And now Nebraska's got it back. And when Martinez drove the Huskers downfield, makes a fabulous play on 4th down. Could not see exactly how far he had got on the play. I'm trying to see it on the replay. They're not really giving us a very good view in the stadium, so I had to kind of rely on the refs, and he got the first down, and it puts him, I think it was about at the 4-yard line, something like that. He scores, if not the next play, really soon after that. And at this point, I thought Martinez had, given his team a chance to win. For all the mistakes he might have made before and after that, I thought he did his best to give his team a chance to win. They're now up 31-14. I think there was about 6 minutes on the clock left. The Huskers go to kickoff, and I see Chenault go back for the return. And we had noticed that he had went back for 3 or 4 returns up to this point. So, but they had all been kicked out of the end zone. The kicker was not able to get it there, and when Chenault took off, the dude's unreal. The dude's unreal, and he's running. He ends up fumbling on the play. I did not see the fumble. Me and the crowd of Buff fans that I was standing with were jumping up. Everybody was jumping up. So when he fumbled, there were people jumping up in front of me, and I'm just celebrating, thinking that he was going to get this 60-yard return or maybe even a touchdown. And when I saw him on the ground, I just figured he got tackled. And my friend stopped me and said there's a fumble, and Nebraska ends up getting it. And this is where I didn't understand the play calling for Nebraska. That running back 28, Martinez, would have been the only two people. I would have done 3 straight runs with them. In their best plays, whatever their best plays are, I don't know, but they were not able to put the game away at that point. So CU's defense, give them credit, 31-24, a few minutes left to go in the game. They're able to get their offense back, and it was only a matter of time. The Nebraska defense was good enough to hold the Buffs to that field goal. And their offense took a long drive, but going back out, the first couple plays you could see, even the first play, that the substitutions, whoever was on the defensive line, they were not able to get the push on the offensive line like they were, as the game had started, the Nebraska defense was tired, and you could just see it. You could see it in the stadium that the Buffs were going to dictate the game. And as long as they didn't make a mistake, Nebraska's defense was not going to be able to stop them. So the Buffs came down, and the throw from Montez to Brown was one of those plays that I'll never forget. Montez, when he sets his feet and throws the ball, I'm a bit biased because I love the Buffs and love everything that every player on the team. So when Montez sets his feet, he's got an arm that rivals any quarterback in college. There's some that I could definitely hear the arguments of some arms being better, but he is definitely top notch. He is in the upper class when it comes to arm talent. And he set his feet and let that ball go, and I immediately looked down at the receiver. I knew it wasn't Chenault, but I couldn't see who it was. And I didn't know if the guy was going to be able to make the play. But the ball came down, and credit the Nebraska defender. He was where he should have been. I think he did everything that he could have done. But when you have a perfect route and a perfect ball, the receiver was able to get the corner that's guarding him. Brown was able to get the corner that's guarding him in the perfect position, right on his left hip, and 2-3 yards in from the sideline, and gave Montez enough room to put the ball on his right side between his body and the sideline. And there's nothing the defender could have done at that point. And if you watch the replay, he was close. The defender was close, but the ball was perfect. And tie game after that. I haven't got to watch the game replay yet, so I haven't got to see the TV view. I only got to watch the highlights over the last couple of days. And but I was on the opposite side on that end zone. I was on the opposite side of the field. So when Brown came down with the ball, I immediately looked up to the crowd to see the reactions. And when everybody was jumping, I looked to the ref, and he's throwing up his hands for the touchdown, and I just knew, if when they go into overtime, that Nebraska defense can't hold up. So Martinez gets the ball, a minute to go, whatever it is. They had burned out a timeout, I think coming out after halftime, I believe. Nebraska burned a timeout. I thought they had all in their timeouts. I looked up, and my friend John reminded me that they had already burned a timeout. And I was worried. I don't know, the Nebraska players that well. Number 10, I think he's a senior or junior, the receiver. He was in the game last year, and I think he is, talent-wise, I think he's pretty special. Maybe I'm wrong, but he looks really good when you watch him live. I think he's really fast. I don't know how big he is. He looks like he's probably 5'10" to 6 feet. But he looks like he's has a special talent. And they could not get him the ball in open space. I think he might have dropped one on that drive even, or maybe it was earlier. But regardless, I was watching him at that point. I was worried that they might get him the ball and he can make a play. get them into field goal range. And I had no clue that the Nebraska kicker was hurt. I don't know if he got hurt before the game. I actually never got the details on that. It wasn't until later that I heard that the kicker was the backup. So I was worried that he was going to be able to get them in a spot where they can kick a long field goal. When Martinez throws the deep ball down his right side, I mean, at that moment it's kind of I give Martinez credit for the throw. He gave his guy an opportunity to go up and make a play and win the game. The cornerback, number 14 for CU, I'm not sure his name. Maybe it's I thought it was Chris Miller, but I think Chris Miller had on 14 last year, and I think that was him. But I'm still not sure because I haven't been able to watch the actual the film. So, but number 14. He might have got away with a push there at the end. Not a push, but kind of like a hook. But he got his body in excellent position to make a play. From where the ref is, the ref couldn't see, his arm being on the receiver for Nebraska. And even if he did, I don't see it being a pass interference. I mean, the corner can play the ball too, and he just got his body in front of the receiver at that point. And made a fabulous play. It saves CU because if he gets a pass interference or there's a reception there, obviously Nebraska's in a scoring position. So when the guy catches it, the replay, I'm watching the screen and I can see that he was down. The refs, called him down after and they looked at the replay. But it was a fabulous play by, the corner for the Buffs. He saved, to a certain extent, and from a certain point, I mean, he really eliminated that chance for Nebraska to win. I mean, that was their last chance because, again, in overtime, you can see that the defense was not going to be able to hold up that long. So, CU gets the ball. I was hoping they get the ball second. They got it first. Obviously, you wanted to put a touchdown on the board. CU just made kind of I think a mistake on their play calling there, but still they were strong enough to move the ball but not score. And so they got an easy field goal, and now it's Nebraska's shot. And when the sack happened, Mustafa Johnson, play of the game there, when the sack happened, Mustafa Johnson, went away the defensive play of the game. And so he's lining up for the field goal, and I'm seeing where he's going to be kicking it from. And a left-footed kicker kicking from the left hash, I didn't think that he was going to make it. I felt very confident that he was going to miss the field goal. But, I had no control over it. So you don't know. And I've seen Nebraska beat the Buffaloes on a few occasions on long field goals. And so I felt like, wow, it could happen again. We can see a special field goal here and tie up and go into a second overtime and see what happens. But I felt that the chances were good. And I was, again, I did not know that was the backup kicker. I paid attention to him being a left-footed kicker and kicking from the left hash mark. That's always a very hard kick for any kicker, and especially in college. Had he been a right kicker, I think, it would have been lined up for him to put all of his power into it and then not shank it so bad. But once the kick went up, I looked down at the refs. I looked at the fans, everyone started celebrating, and the refs, threw out the sign no good. So at that point I knew it was over. And, credit to CU. I hear a lot of the Nebraska fans, and I talk to a lot of Nebraska fans, and they're upset. They're upset with their team for giving up a lead, and I get that, but there's also those parts in football games where, teams also make things happen. And so the call, the fleet flicker, the long drives by CU eventually got the better of Nebraska's defense. And that was a big reason the Nebraska offense CU made some adjustments because they were moving it really well in that second quarter. And whatever CU did after halftime, they gave up, whatever CU did after halftime worked. And if you look at the scoring drives for Nebraska, you had the broken play early in the first quarter for the touchdown. You had Nebraska with a 4th and long. They're getting off the field. A CU player runs into the punter, and they get the ball back. CU's defense is tired. Nebraska's got a fresh set of downs, and they come down and score for the second touchdown. Montez's interception gives them the field goal, 17-zip. Their third touchdown of the game is the number 28 catching the pass out of the backfield and turning it up. And, great play call there, great execution. You can see it being set up from the stadium. And whoever the Nebraska receivers were, it looks like one might have been a tight end because he was huge. But they came down and slammed that side shut, and he was able to, the running back was able to get that, get the reception and turn the corner, and he was out. He was out. So big play. I think it was about 75 yards on that one. That was their third touchdown. But Nebraska's fourth touchdown, which gave them the 31 points, was the best drive of the game for them. And it happened, midway through the fourth quarter. So, you can see like some of the changes and some of the mistakes that CU had made early in the game. So it's not all, Nebraska's fault to lose that. CU made some adjustments as well. And they made some plays. And that's, life in a college football game. When you got two teams that I feel are pretty evenly matched. I think if they play that game 10 times, it can go either way each game. Just who's going to make the plays when it mattered the most. And CU did not back down. They did not panic. And they kept the pressure on the Huskers enough to, cause them to flinch a bit. And when they did, CU took advantage. When they got tired, CU took advantage. When they made a mistake late in the game, CU took advantage. So, great job, Buffs. I was proud. Proud fan on Saturday, and walking out of the stadium. It was, when I looked at the Nebraska fans, it was like they were going to a funeral or coming from one. And I had a conversation with a few of them. The Husker fans are good people. So, we talked, and maybe next time. I think these two teams are going to play each other in 23-24. I could be wrong, but I think it's somewhere in that time frame. I've been out to Lincoln to watch the Buffs play, and hopefully next time they play, I'll be there again. That's definitely my intentions now, so in a couple years, we'll see. I'll get some with some of my friends and hopefully head out again. So we'll have a repeat. But when I went to Lincoln last time, the Buffs lost. So that was a while ago. So, yeah. So great job, Buffs. So proud of the team. So proud of the way they fought. And I can't wait until the next weekend. I will be at the Air Force game as well. Me and some friends are going. And early start. I think it's going to be 11 o'clock start. Which I'm actually excited for because usually it's a 1 o'clock start, and I like a 1 o'clock start, but it's going to be interesting. We'll get some breakfast in Boulder, and we'll head over to the stadium and watch the Buffs play the Air Force Academy. It's going to be tough. Can't wait. But great job, Buffs. I will miss playing the Huskers. It is the toughest game for me to watch in all college football, to watch my favorite team play against the team that I like the least in the Huskers. But I do respect the Huskers. I respect their tradition. I respect their fan base. They have a great fan base, and great players have come out of that program. So, it's painful to watch the Buffs lose to the Huskers more than any other team. So, but it also is a joy when they win. So I am going to enjoy this for the next 4 years, back-to-back. CU gave the Huskers a couple heartbreakers. So, Husker fans, we'll see you in, I think 4 years or so. So, I'm sure that they will want their revenge. And actually, one guy told me that on the way out. He shook my hand. He said, "Great game." I asked him if he was staying in town or if he had to drive back to Nebraska. He said he was driving back. It was going to take him about 8 hours that night. I wished him a safe journey, and before he walked off, he said, "Hey, we'll be waiting for you in Lincoln." So, bam, there it is. There it is. And that's how this chapter for this home and away is going to close. And we'll have another one. So, bam, Buffs up, Draven's World out.